A government shutdown has been averted. A new spending bill has been signed, but things were uncertain earlier when President Trump threatened to veto the measure because it didn't include protections for dreamers or enough money for his promised border wall. The president reluctantly approved it, but warned he's never going to sign legislation like this again.
As a matter of national security, I've signed this Omnibus budget bill. There are a lot of things that I'm unhappy about in this bill. There are a lot of things that we shouldn't have had in this bill, but we were, in a sense, forced. If we want to build our military, we were forced to have. I will never sign another bill like this again. I'm not going to do it again. Nobody read it. It's only hours old. Some people don't even know what it is. $1.3 trillion. It's the second largest ever.
Mr. Trump says he wants to change the Senate's rules to eliminate the filibuster and allow passage on a simple majority vote. He also called for a line-item veto that would grant him the ability to nix spending that he disagrees with. So, Geraldo, welcome to El Cinco.
Thank you. Nice to be back.
All right. So what do you make of the president? The rhetoric here very strong. You can see that he's like genuinely displeased with the way this sort of happened and rolled out.
You know, words are cheap, and the spending bill is expensive. I think, first of all, as an attorney, let me start with the line item veto that every president has wanted. Bill Clinton won it, then the Supreme Court ruled it unconstitutional. Why? Because it's up to the legislative branch to determine spending,
Sure.
not the president. He signs on or off, but he doesn't determine the line item. You know, he can't veto things line by line as much as every president would like that kind of control. Dick Cheney famously said that Reagan proved that deficits don't matter to politicians, whether they're going to be reelected or not. I hope that's true, because now the deficit hits $1 trillion with this budget. And while people are cheering the $650 billion for the Defense Department and the enhanced military, I remember when I worked at 2020 doing a series of exposés about the Defense Department when it's flush with cash, doesn't really spend it with prudence in a reasonable fashion. I exposed toilet seats, for instance, that was selling for $640, screws, single screws, selling for $37 to the Defense Department, a coffee maker selling for $7,353. So $650 billion. I hope it goes to the right thing. I hope it goes to the right kind of weapons. He mentioned F-35s, enhanced F-18s, 30 new naval vessels. That's all good, but money doesn't mean security necessarily.
All right, Jesse, does it?
Well, I know one thing. Mexico's not going to pay for the wall, and neither are we, because it says there's going to be only $1.6 billion for the wall, and you can't even use the new concrete wall prototypes that he just surveyed. And it's only supposed to be for 93 miles. The border's 3,000 miles. And the only fencing that's going to be done is backup fencing and repairs. This was a huge defeat for the president on a signature issue. It's really, really bad. There's no way to spin it. I know he wanted more money for the military, and that's incredibly important, but he sacrificed everything else to get it. And I hate to do this. I hate to quote Rand Paul, but Rand Paul said something really...
Do you hate it, though?
Well, I mean, only for this instance. He said there's an unholy alliance between Republicans and Democrats in Congress. The Republicans want to spend like crazy on the military, and the Democrats say, OK, we'll give you the military spending if we can spend whatever we want on domestic spending. And they get together and they just run deficits. But the border is a mess. And Crying Chuck Schumer gets all the money he wants for a tunnel from New Jersey to New York, and there's no border wall funding. I saw some of this other pork. I mean, Planned Parenthood, $500 million. The John F. Kennedy Center's getting $40 million. Stuff that is, they wanted to cut the budget for the EPA. The EPA budget's at a historic high. It's really insulting, and he says it's never going to happen again. I don't see how he's going to change the dynamic in Congress to have this never happen again. Democrats are never going to vote for border wall funding. And the Republicans aren't going to go to the mattresses for it. He should just have his rich billionaire friends pony up. Maybe they can privatize it.
Oh, my God. It's sponsored by the Billionaire Boys Club. How fabulous. Exactly. Okay, so winner, Chuck Schumer dinner. He's the guy that came out ahead in all of this. So pork and all.
I kind of love what President Trump did today. As someone who's worked in political communications, I'm so sick and tired of Republicans just accepting the terms of the debate from the media and the left. And President Trump does it. Think about what he did today. He came out and basically shamed the Democratic Party for not fighting harder to include DACA in this deal. He won a massive public debate with Congress in a stand down when the Democratic Party tried to shut down Congress over DACA, and they got shamed by the majority of Americans disagreed with that approach. And then when they don't fight for it, after going through that bruising battle, he then shames them for not doing it. So, I mean, you kind of have to,
I don't think
in some
the Democrats
degree.
are capable of feeling shame.
No, but it's somewhat, from a political, communication standpoint, it's kind of genius.
I don't know.
They got $300 million for the training vessel for one of my alma maters, Maritime College in the Bronx. Schumer got $300 million for a ship, a training ship that lives under the Throgs Neck Bridge. I mean, that's a lot of... he can deal with a lot of shame for that kind of money.
That kind of money.
It's not draining the swamp. It's filling it up.
Well, the swamp is Congress, I guess, and they're filling it with boatloads of cash for themselves. Go ahead.
Me?
Yep.
All right, my favorite part, no protection for dreamers. You could hear Ann Coulter's eyeballs pop out of her skull, fly across the galaxy, straight into the sun, and explode. The only people, I don't understand why people are angry over this. How could you not see this coming?
Business as usual.
Yeah, Donald Trump is not a libertarian, right? He's not small government. Small government is dead. Sadly, as a conservative, it is dead. 1.3 trillion, that's a lot of dining room sets for Ben Carson. So we know Donald Trump is a deal maker, right? In this case, the deal wasn't that great, but it's like a kidney stone. He had to pass it, and it hurt, but you still got to pass it. The problem is, you got to make it accept. It's like when you vote. If you voted for Donald Trump, you accepted the flaws for the bigger benefits. In this case, the budget is like that. It's like, well, at least I get all this for the military. If I got to put up with the Planned Parenthood thing, or if I have to put up with the no wall thing, but at least I get all this.
The environmental protection.
Yeah. It's like you have to. That's the nature
the wall thing
of
was
the.
kind of big.
Yeah, but that's the nature of a compromise. So perhaps he could have shaped it in a way where he said, like, I'm not happy, but that's the nature of compromise. A lot of people aren't happy, but he did say some things that that haven't been said before, which is like nobody read it, except here on Fox News. We've been saying that all the time. All I know is I'm not surprised by this because he's not an ideologue.
Well, I love the guy, but I have to say that when he promises never to ever do that again, after he promised never to ever fire McMaster, those kinds of promises are not written in stone.
But I think he kind of did what you said in talking about this was a compromise. I had to do that. And I think that's why he had Secretary Mattis come out, because the premise of him accepting this deal, despite all of its glaring flaws, as everyone's laid out here, it's a terrible deal. But the only reason he accepted it, or at least what he laid out today, is having Secretary Mattis. This is about our military. And so I think that's where he came from in terms of
Yeah, he did say that. He said there's a lot of strings.
Accepting the bad.
A lot of people pulling these strings. But I have to say, liberal Democrats have to thank Republicans, because without a capitalist society, we wouldn't be able to give them all this money just to waste.
It's true. And tax receipts are at an all-time high. We're taking in more revenue than we've ever taken in before, and we're spending more than we ever have before, except one other time, which is probably under Obama.
I'd rather have them spend it on military than condoms for the spotted owl.
It is a little ironic, though, because
that's not true.
Well, maybe. Those spotted owls can be randy.
We're talking about slapping tariffs on China, and then now they're going to own more of us because we're racking up the national debt. So there is a little bit of.
But I think there is something bizarre and obscene about having a 2,200-odd page document that nobody reads.
Yeah.
So that the lobbyists are all.
Well, they have staff read it.
Well, they have baloney. I think that what they have is the lobbyists read it. The lobbyists were all in a panic when he said he was going to veto the bill. Then they were all calling it, does my pork stay in there? Does mine? So I think that this process is so dysfunctional, and that's the way Washington works. That's the swamp that everybody talks about. And I believe in my heart of hearts that if it wasn't for the stock market tanking, he would have vetoed it, or, the spending lasted until tonight. He would have let the government shut down over the weekend if it wasn't for the fact that everything's now so tenuous. You got the porn stars, you got China, you got the stock market. You have so much going on right now.
Well, to Lisa's point, the way he split the deal last time was to put the Democrats on defense and say, we're going to shut down the government because you guys want to protect illegal aliens. He didn't have that same type of dynamic this time, so I don't know if he would have been able to win the shutdown debate.
worst
And they just went home. They said, you said, okay, well, I'm going to veto. And then Paul Ryan said, okay, we're closed. See you Monday.
The worst thing about the, I understand his anger, being upset about the deal, and I get it because, like you said, when you're making a deal, you know what's in the deal. In government, you don't. But the disturbing part was when he started talking about suing pharmaceutical companies.
I like that idea.
Oh, that's a terrible idea, and I'll tell you why. The president of the United States saying he's going to sue pharmaceutical companies, how is that different than the saying President Obama after a mass shooting saying we're going to sue gun companies? You don't cast a wide net. You go after the lawbreaker, and if you're going to sue pharmaceutical companies, you're going to create incredible hysteria and fear. People with cancer and pain-related disorders are not going to be able to get the drugs, and they've done nothing wrong. They are not addicts. You don't sue the companies.
They made pushers of doctors.
Well, I mean, then, so you're all for suing. So when a stolen gun when a stolen gun is involved in a robbery, you sue the maker of the gun company.
They have documentation how they program those doctors to overprescribe addictive drugs. Please.
All right, let's sue the gun companies when a stolen gun is used in a crime.
When an AR-15 is used, I wouldn't.
All right, there you go. Well, we got you. You'd sue the gun companies.
I would.
Sue the pharmaceutical companies, sue the gun companies.
Everyone's getting sued.
Suing Greg next.
Yes.
I'm going to sue Greg.
President, let's do it. Let's bring a case together.